In the crisp fall of 1903, the quiet farming town of Van Meter, Iowa, a place with a population of just 900 souls, counted exactly one thing no census ever could: 9 straight nights of absolute heart-pounding terror. Because something truly unbelievable, something with glowing eyes, leathery wings that beat like thunder, and a horn that shone with the blinding intensity of a locomotive headlight, rose out of the old coal shaft on the very edge of town. And here's the kicker: nothing the panicked townspeople fired at it, not a single bullet or blast left so much as a scratch. Imagine the fear, imagine the helplessness. Most Iowans, even today, have probably never heard of the Van Meter visitor. And isn't that wild? Because back in its day, this story wasn't just local gossip. It crossed the Mississippi, running in papers from the bustling streets of Chicago all the way to the plains of Omaha. Today, we're doing more than just reopening a dusty old book. We're prying open the sealed mineshaft of history itself. We're going to pore over the original 1903 eyewitness accounts, examine the plaster footprint cast that, believe it or not, still sits in the bank lobby, and pick apart the modern theories that range from shaggy sandhill cranes to actual visitors from another world. By the time we're done, you'll have to decide for yourself whether Van Meter truly fought a monstrous creature, succumbed to a mass delusion, or perhaps encountered something far stranger, something that exists in that unsettling space in between. Van Meter in 1903 was, by all accounts, a picture-perfect postcard of American rural life. You had your 2 towering grain elevators, the sturdy brick bank, dozens of neat farmsteads stretching out into the fertile Iowa landscape, and then, on the western edge, the silent, abandoned black coal mine. Evenings here were a symphony of simple pleasures, smelling sweetly of cured hay and the faint, delicate scent of lilacs. Nights were so profoundly dark that you could read the stars like scripture, each constellation a familiar verse. No one bothered to lock their doors. Why would they? Kids played boisterous games of kick the can until the church bell tolled 9, signalling it was time for bed. Life was utterly predictable, a comforting rhythm of seasons and harvests, until, that is, the first cool breath of autumn carried something winged, something luminous, something utterly alien over Main Street. The quiet was about to be shattered. Night 1, the light on the roofs. U.G. Griffith, a reputable farm implement dealer, was just finishing up for the night. He'd closed the hardware store at 10:30, lamp in hand, making his way home. But halfway to his boarding house, he froze. What he saw defied explanation. A blazing white beam, almost impossibly bright, skimmed across the rooftops of the sleeping town. It paused, hovering for a moment atop the opera house, casting an eerie glow, before vanishing just as suddenly toward the old mine. Griffith, a practical man, told the Van Meter Chronicle that it moved with purpose, like a man walking on stilts of light. Now, some locals, trying to rationalise the impossible, blamed rambunctious kids and a mirror. But Griffith knew better. He understood angles, he understood speed, and he knew what he saw couldn't be explained away by mischievous children. That night he slept with his shotgun loaded, a knot of unease tightening in his gut. He was the first to witness the impossible, and his certainty would soon be echoed by many others. Night 3. The doctor fires first blood. 2 nights later, the strange occurrences escalated dramatically. Dr. Fred Alcott, the town physician, and a man who had seen the horrors of the Civil War, woke with a start. A noxious, sulphurous stench, thick and cloying, was wafting through his open window, an odour that spoke of brimstone and something deeply unnatural. Outside, perched on the telephone pole, was a silhouette. Not a bird, not an animal he recognised. This thing was the size of a cow, its ribbed wings, described almost like oilcloth, wrapped tightly around the wooden pole. And then he saw it, a short, blunt horn on its forehead, pulsing with light, throwing off sparks that danced and died on the dirt street below. Dr. Alcott, a man of action, didn't hesitate. He aimed his service revolver, a relic from his wartime days, and fired. 3 shots rang out in the still night. The creature responded with a shriek, a sound so terrifying it was described as halfway between a panther and lightning. It snapped the pole top with a sickening crack and then, completely unharmed, coasted silently into the moonless sky. Later, those .38 slugs Alcott fired were found, flattened and distorted, against what no one could possibly fathom. The doctor, a man of science and war, had just encountered something beyond his understanding. Night 4, the banker, the bullet and the cast. The next morning, the palpable fear in Van Meter deepened. Peter Dunn, the cashier of the Farmers and Merchants Bank, arrived at work to an unsettling sight. Stretching across the bank's front stoop were muddy, 3-toed prints. Each one was a startling 14 inches long and sunk a full 2 inches deep into the wet limestone. This wasn't just some animal track. This was something huge, something heavy. Dunn, a meticulous man, quickly mixed dental plaster and carefully poured it into the clearest track he saw. Once set, he locked the cast away in the bank vault, a piece of irrefutable, tangible evidence. Decades later, when interviewed about the incident, he swore the toes showed skin ridges like a human thumbprint, a detail that chills you to the bone. And here's the truly incredible part. That very cast, a silent witness to a week of terror, still gathers dust in the current bank's display case. You can stop by Van Meter today, peer into that case and eye the grooves yourself. It's a stark, undeniable reminder of what stalked their streets. Night 5, the marksman misses. As the nights wore on, the town became a fortress of fear. O.V. White, a local legend known for his incredible marksmanship, the kind of man who could hit running rabbits at 300 yards, took up watch. He positioned himself on the hardware store roof, his trusty .3 240 Winchester rifle at the ready. At 2 a.m, the air itself seemed to thicken, growing heavy and oppressive. Then, enormous wings began to beat directly overhead, sounding like carpets being shaken violently. White, steady and focused, squeezed off one round. The visitor answered with a shriek so powerful it rattled the very windows of the stores below. It swooped, a dark, menacing shape against the night sky, and then vanished down the shaft road back toward the mine. White, a man whose aim was legendary, swore he saw the bullet ricochet like I'd shot an anvil. His shot, like the doctor's, had been useless. By sunrise, the town was a hive of activity. Posses formed, men arriving from surrounding farms with their dogs, their dynamite, and even a minister hoping for divine intervention. The monster was real, and it was bulletproof. The town shuts down. By this point, the fear had consumed Van Meter. Every child, gripped by nightmares, slept downstairs, in parlour quilts, huddled close to their parents. Horses, usually so docile, refused to pass the mine road, snorting and shying away from the unseen terror. Even the canaries in the bank, sensitive creatures, sang all night long, their frantic chirping a constant, unsettling soundtrack. The Chronicle's headlines screamed the town's collective horror. Terror stalks our streets. What is the winged devil? Churches filled to overflowing, desperate prayers echoing off the rafters, while saloons, usually bustling, sat empty. The hardware store sold out of ammunition, a grim testament to the town's resolve and desperation. One editorial, summing up the pervasive mood, declared, "Van Meter has met something beyond sermons and shotguns. Farmers, their faces grim, drove in from 10 miles around, rifles across their laps, ready to join the hunt for what many already believed couldn't die. The town had effectively shut down, paralysed by an unknown, unkillable enemy." Night 9, the final confrontation. The tension reached a breaking point on the 9th night. Around 60 men, their faces etched with a mixture of fear and grim determination, crept toward the mine at dusk, their lanterns shuttered to hide their approach. They heard the creature before they saw it, a chilling hiss, like steam escaping through razor-sharp teeth. Then, from the black maw of the mine, 2 shapes emerged. One was the full-grown, terrifying beast they'd come to know, and astonishingly, a second, smaller creature followed, a juvenile perhaps. Their horns glowed in unison, twin locomotive lamps piercing the twilight. The posse, their nerves frayed, but their resolve hardened, fired in volleys. Muzzle flashes briefly illuminated their gaunt, terrified faces. The pair, seemingly unfazed by the onslaught of bullets, fluttered into the mine shaft. The larger creature emitted one final ear-splitting cry that echoed through the valley for a full, agonising minute, a sound that would haunt their dreams for years to come. Reverend Shepherd, his voice hoarse but firm, shouted to seal the entrance. By morning, volunteers had worked tirelessly, mortaring the portal with heavy limestone slabs and reinforcing it with railroad ties. No tracks ever led out. The mine was sealed, and with it, hopefully, the terror. Immediate aftermath life, slowly and tentatively, began to restart in Van Meter, but it wasn't the same. Children, forever changed, looked skyward first when they stepped outside, a subconscious habit born of fear. Shopkeepers swept their boardwalks, but now a rifle leaned casually beside every broom, a silent sentinel. The Chronicle printed a last, poignant editorial. We have buried our fear beneath stone and prayer. Outside of Van Meter, Iowa papers eventually moved on to other news, and bigger cities scoffed at the country folks' tall tale. Yet, in Van Meter itself, the curfew bells continued to ring at 9 o'clock for decades, a solemn, enduring reminder that some doors, once open to the unknown, are far, far better left bricked shut. The memory, though buried, never truly faded. Modern theory. So what was it? Modern theories abound, each trying to make sense of the inexplicable. Ornithologists, for example, often point to Iowa's native turkey vultures. These aren't your average pigeons, they boast impressive 6-foot wingspans. In low light, they argue, a vulture's bald red head could easily be mistaken for a horn, and what about the glow? Perhaps reflective limestone dust, agitated by flight, could magnify stray gleams of moonlight or lantern light. Fear, combined with those tricky moon shadows, might just stretch a 4-foot scavenger into an 8-foot demon. It's a neat theory, isn't it? But here's where it falls apart. Vultures don't shriek loud enough to rattle window panes, and their hollow bones certainly don't deflect .38 slugs without a scratch. The big bird explanation just doesn't quite fit the bill. Modern theory 2, mass hysteria. Then there's the psychological angle. Psychologists often remind us that the Van Meter mine had closed the year before the incident, crop prices were falling, and the town was facing economic uncertainty. Could a shared monster story, they ask, rally outside curiosity and perhaps even attract investors to a struggling town? It's a compelling thought. However, true hoaxers rarely risk facing down rifle fire, and in Van Meter, multiple reputable businessmen, men of standing in the community, stuck to their terrifying tales until their dying day. Fabricating a plaster cast with such detailed skin ridges like a human thumbprint would also demand an unusual level of foresight and intricate planning for a simple prank. While mass hysteria can certainly be powerful, the sheer consistency of the accounts and the physical evidence make this theory feel, well, a little too neat. Modern theory 3, prehistoric survivor. For those who love a good mystery, cryptozoologists offer another intriguing possibility, a prehistoric survivor. They wonder if pterosaur-like creatures, thought to be long extinct, could have persisted in isolated caverns, perhaps feeding on bats and bioluminescent fungi that might explain the creature's strange, glowing horn. It's a thrilling idea, isn't it? A living fossil, unearthed from the depths of the earth. But the biggest hurdle here is the absence of bones. Bats leave guano, and any large reptilian creature would surely leave behind some trace. Yet, nothing remotely reptilian has ever surfaced in Iowa's geological strata. It's a fun thought, a creature from another time, but the evidence just isn't there, is it? Modern theory 4, extraterrestrial or interdimensional. And then we arrive at the truly out there theories. UFO researchers point to the creature's bulletproof skin, its light emitting anatomy, and its abrupt disappearance down a sealed shaft. They argue that the horn may not be a horn at all, but rather some sort of bioluminescent sensory gear, perhaps for navigating dark dimensional corridors or even space itself. Evidence? Well, beyond the consistent eyewitness testimony, there isn't any concrete proof, but the pattern, they argue, fits global Mothman flaps, where witnesses describe glowing eyes, impossible flight, and an eerie sense of pre-disaster dread. Could the Van Meter visitor have been an alien scout, a visitor from another dimension, or something else entirely beyond our current scientific understanding? It's a tempting thought, especially when all other explanations fall short. If you've got a theory, whether it's a shaggy sandhill crane, a demon from another plane, or even a drone from 1903, drop it in the comments below. I genuinely read every single one, and if regional mysteries, the kind that make you question everything, are your thing, then tap that subscribe button for next week's deep dive into the chilling tale of the Wolf Woman of Gallipolis. Stay curious, stay kind, and whatever you do, keep your lantern handy. You never know what might be lurking in the dark. The Van Meter visitor left behind no carcass, no blurry photograph, no undeniable scientific proof. All it left was a plaster cast, yellowed newsprint, and the unwavering testimony of 60 men who swore on their mothers' graves they met the impossible. More than a century later, the case remains wide open. Zoology flunks it, unable to classify such a creature. Psychology shrugs, struggling to explain away such widespread, consistent accounts. And the extraterrestrial file, well, it just stays tantalizingly open, doesn't it? Maybe the real answer lives somewhere between bulletproof skin and humanity's insatiable hunger for wonder, irrefutable proof that sometimes the most solid thing a monster leaves behind is not a body, but the vast, echoing space where fear flows right into fascination.